What is up, guys? RLTKPHX special guest Juan Chavez wearing a trash Cardinals jersey, but it's okay.
Come on now.
Hey, so what you gonna hit us with us today, bro?
All right, man. We're talking about high school students, and I'm sharing a story of a guy I went to high school with who was murdered my senior year in high school. 10 years later, I'm sitting in a room running a group of Man Up, and his little brother is sitting in the same room. 10 years later. You're gonna hear that story on today's episode.
Let's get it. What is up, guys? RLTK PHX Real Talk Phoenix, episode 21.
Yep.
We're loading up on the guests. I hope you guys have been enjoying it as much as we have, because we're learning a ton from you guys' comments, shares, likes. It seems like you guys are learning a ton as well, and that's kind of the whole goal, right? We want to be the start of the conversation, not the end of it. And so super excited about today's guest. Really good friend of mine. Loves this dude. He's a great example of character, which is kind of cool because it's kind of what he's doing. This is my boy Juan Chavez.
What up? What's up?
As you can see, he's wearing the Cardinals jersey. So
unfortunately,
I don't know what happened today.
He left his Cowboys.
I don't know what he was thinking.
Hold on a second. There's a lot of assumptions taking place right now. First of all, I'm not a Cowboys fan.
You should be.
You're
not Cardinals fan, too.
I forgot you
You're
guys
not
are
Cardinals
you guys
fan.
are
That's
coming
right.
from Texas.
Okay,
America's team, man.
Hold up, bro. Hold up.
We'll let him tell the truth.
All right,
But
all right.
Tell
Thank
everybody
you. Listen.
who tell
First
everybody
of
who the
all,
team is.
I'm a Miami Dolphins fan.
Uh-oh.
All right?
All right.
Here's why. My dad grew up on Dan Marino playing for the Dolphins.
Hey.
So he raised me a Dolphins fan. All right? Unfortunately, it's been a tough go for the last 30 years of my life. But I love the Cardinals too. Because I mean, you have to. I feel like you have to.
We're in Arizona, man. It's got to be your
the state
team.
you're in. Yeah.
I feel
So my
that.
wife got me this jersey
I'm a hater.
with
Yeah,
our
it's
son's
nice.
name
Dallas
on it.
Cowboys
Oh,
all
that's
day.
cool.
Triple D. Let's go. Let's get it. Dallas Cowboys
Sorry,
winning the
bro.
Super Bowl
Okay.
next year.
Okay,
Remember
so-
I said it. You can check this podcast. I don't even care. We finna take it.
With Dak Prescott.
Stephen A. can get these hands if he wants to say anything about it. That's right, Stephen A.
Bro, I've heard
With
so
Dak
many
Prescott?
terrible
Yes.
jokes about Dak
You're
With
right.
Prescott.
Dak Prescott.
What about him?
Dakota
I
Prescott?
don't know if he's the guy.
Whatever. Get out of here, bro. You don't even have a quarterback.
Comment. Hey,
you,
guys,
you
comment
do
what you
anything. You can do anything you can to get Dak Prescott.
We're
got
getting
Fitzmagic.
a quarterback.
Who you getting?
Joe Burrow, I call
Tua.
him.
No, they're not.
Tua.
No,
You
Tua's
think
going to
they'll
go
get
to the
Tua?
Chargers.
We're getting
Watch.
Tua.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right.
He's going to the Chargers.
That's what I heard.
I heard Tom Brady's going back to
The Raiders?
going to the Niners, and Garoppolo's going back to the Patriots.
No way.
And I heard Peyton Manning's coming out of retirement. No, I'm just playing.
So our podcast
Along
just
with
changed
Brett
from the
Favre.
Real Talk podcast to Sports Talk Radio.
all sports talk.
My bad. Hey, but anyways,
Yeah.
Juan,
Yes.
so glad you're here, bro.
Me too.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
man.
Thanks for the invitation.
thank you for gracing us with your presence. And so tell us a little bit about you. What's your story, man? I know that you're a Phoenix native,
Yeah,
right?
I am.
A
I'm-
unicorn.
Yep.
So come on, share with us.
I'm not even going to ask what that means. Yeah, I'm a Phoenix native. I am 31 years old. I'm married. I've been married to my wife, Tina, for 7 years. This April, we're celebrating 7 years.
Dope.
John and I found out our anniversaries are 3 days apart.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
That's dope.
His is the 27th. Mine's the 24th.
Yep.
Hey,
We got 3 kids.
let's go.
Yeah, JL is 4, Violet's 2, Jacob's 8
You
months.
sleeping yet?
Nope. Yeah, I'm from Phoenix, born and raised in South Phoenix. I grew up on 39th Ave in Southern,
Okay, bet.
across the street from Chavez High School. Went there all 4 years. And when I turned 19, my life radically changed. And I had this huge desire to want to work with young people and give them what I didn't have growing up.
That's
You
good,
know,
bro.
which is basically a positive influence. You know, the role models I had in my life they were cool. They were cool as heck. They're still cool to this day, but they weren't teaching me anything good.
Right,
It was going to land me in some tough spots. So,
So would you say you were like a good kid and just had like some rough edges, or were you like really running with the wrong crowd during that
yeah,
time?
man, I was a good kid. Like, I knew what to say and do when I was around certain people. You know, if my family's around, like, I'm respectful.
Respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I got into like my junior year in high school is when I really started like that's when I got introduced to like the party life, and it was game over after that, man. Like,
Yeah. Oh wow.
my cousin got me high for the first time at age 15
Dang.
Hey.
at Disneyland.
At Disneyland.
At Disneyland,
Like the
man.
most worst possible place to have someone try drugs for the first
man,
time.
He got me high at 15. I was paranoid as can be.
Dang.
But
Mickey! Why are you looking at me like that, Mickey?
Yeah,
Two black ears.
I'm dead. You out lying, bro.
And that was it, man. Then I got introduced to the party life my junior year in high school, and drinking, and that just, I mean, over the next 3 years, just turned into partying as much as we can, drinking as much as we can, smoking as much as we can. Then I started popping pills, you know, just like whatever you could do to get that extra
downward
that next
spiral.
high. Yeah, man. Placing handcuffs a couple of times, which I never thought I'd be. And I just knew, like, man, this ain't going anywhere good for me. And I wanted to make sure I was able to provide young people with what I didn't have. These, you know, just a positive, not perfect, but just a different outlook on life.
Who were the people that were speaking into your life back then? Did you have strong parents, uncles, aunts, coaches?
Well, when the turn came at age 19, then I had some men come around my life. One of them is a man named Manuel Nunez.
Oh, all right.
And this dude was like, he was like a father figure to me, you know, because I saw him with his family of 6, you know. I saw what a faithful husband looked like. I saw what a faithful father looks like, and that's no shot on my dad at all. He's a great father, but this man just came in my life at that time when I needed it. Began speaking into my life in a certain way, and he was that role model for me.
That
and then
voice
other
you
man,
could hear.
yeah, and the voice I could reach out to and ask questions
good.
and process stuff with.
And everybody needs that, right? Teenagers need that. They need somebody outside of their like family space that they can go to, confide in, trust. Now it's like better if the parents know that person, right? So if you know that person that your kid's going to, there can be some level of, I don't say coordination, but like everybody kind of knows what's going on, right?
Yeah, because that man or woman is able to talk to the parents.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Here's what we're talking about. Here's what I'm processing. Here's what I'm saying.
And did you just feel safer talking to someone who wasn't like a parent because you were just embarrassed, or a family? Is that, do you think?
Man, I think every parent wants what's best for their kid. But it's like, man, I've heard you my whole life. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You get to a certain point where it's like,
man, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people listening, they think like, well, my kid needs someone like that in their life only if they're in a bad way. It's like, to be honest, every kid, if they got good parents or not.
100%, man.
Real rap.
100%.
That's great.
So I began teaching at the same high school I graduated from. I taught there for 6 years, and I just fell more in love with community work, community engagement. You know, so fast forward to where we're at today, my wife and I run a nonprofit called AZ Reach, and we are teaching character qualities on campuses. We're working with some of the worst behaved students on this campus. The school assigns these students to us.
Oh, great.
And we walk through a 6-week curriculum with a small group. We intentionally cap out with no more than 8 kids per group because we want to be intentional with relationships.
Man, that's so great.
And we want to create an atmosphere similar to Real Talk, where you can be vulnerable and you can be honest and talk about things you would never talk about in a room of 50 people.
Yeah.
Right?
That's dope, bro. So 2 questions I have, but first one, you mentioned growing up in South Phoenix.
Yeah.
And so I know that in my experience, there's a lot of misconceptions about growing up on the other side of the train tracks.
Yeah, bro.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
haters.
Yeah.
I know, for real.
tell us a little bit about that. Like,
they'll never come out their house.
What were some of the bad things, but what were some of the good things? Because there's beautiful things about living in that side of town.
Yes,
so, like, tell
bro.
us. Share with us, bro.
Yeah, I'm not gonna speak on anything bad. I mean,
Let's go. All right.
I mean, I heard things growing up. You know, people who, I mean, it's just joking. People are clowning and whatnot. But I mean, you could imagine what your typical inner city looks like as far as bad things that are going on. But bro, like, dude, we had every day 65-cent fountain drinks at the corner store. You know what I'm saying? Like, walking there together, walking there in a community, walking there with friends. Man, in the inner city, you got that family aspect. You got people kicking it on the porch. You got people kicking it barbecuing, having family over. Like, there's not this like individual, like, this is just my lane. I'm gonna pull in, shut my garage, escape from the world. There's this family aspect that comes around that.
Agreed.
And that could be good and bad too, depending on the influence that's around you. But yeah, there's beauty in that, man. That you walk around in the inner city and you see graffiti on the wall, But bro, some of that stuff is nice.
Oh my gosh.
Like some of these murals, yeah, bro. Like there's talent that's coming out of these young kids. They're artistic, they're creators and they're gifted, and they're trying to express something.
Absolutely.
Right? So yeah, bro, I think we could talk for a while about the beauty you can find growing up in the inner city, growing up in South Phoenix. But I've also seen it transform over the years, man. Like 5 minutes east from where I grew up, 5 minutes west from where I grew up, it was nothing but fields, nothing but empty fields. Now you got a freeway coming through that bad boy. You got a movie theater popping up. You got Sprouts in the hood. Come on, like what? But gentrification has taken place over the last few years, and it's just progressing. I mean, you know this. You live on the South Side. You see it, right?
And now you got to explain to everybody what gentrification is.
Oh man, come on, bro. Like,
I mean, you said it.
Well, not everyone on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are not familiar with what it is, or they may be somewhat familiar with what it is, but not really know what's happening from the perspective of people that actually
from a heart
live there,
right,
or have lived there.
For sure. Okay, so I was at Starbucks a few years ago. Starbucks I would always go to, right there on the South Side, and I picked my head up, and I saw, and this is in no way, no offense, and if I'm saying it that way, I hope it's not perceived that way, but I looked up and I saw a bunch of white folks in Starbucks in the hood, and I'm like, where did these guys come? What are they doing here?
White people over the side.
What are they doing here? Right? Because you just don't see that.
Yeah.
And then that's when I started to realize, like, oh dang, there's more and more
living here,
middle class to upper class moving into this
part of
town. Yeah, because it's less expensive, it's affordable. There's development that can come around that. When gentrification takes place, like, people don't have ill intentions of wanting to move into a poorer community and intentionally kick out people who grew up there, which is mostly the minorities, Hispanics, African Americans.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. They move in, they buy up these houses because it's affordable, and then this is what happens.
Prices, the cost of living.
Yeah, they raise the cost of living. So people who own those homes are now raising for the people who are renting, because most inner city folks don't know the difference between owning and renting, or they just can't afford to own, so they're renting.
They don't have the credit or whatever.
They don't got the credit. Yeah, so now housing costs is going up. So I'm driving a student home, I'm dropping her off in the hood, at her house, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Mr. Chavez, we're moving." Like, why are you moving? She lived there her whole life. She's like, "We can't afford it anymore."
Wow.
So we're moving far out east, where it's a little less expensive. Less expensive. And I mean, that's just the story. Like, so as gentrification takes place, middle to upper class, and you guys can fill in as, with maybe what I'm not, but they move into a poorer area, a less expensive area. They buy up the homes, and naturally, because cost of living goes up, then the people who grew up there can't afford it anymore. They get booted. Or it turns into like people moving in and not feeling safe anymore.
Right.
They don't feel safe because there's this thug walking in my street, or people I don't know
who've been there forever.
Who live
like
there.
You're
That's
the
their
new
home.
person,
right? Like, you're coming into my home. What are you doing? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I remember I was pulling out of Starbucks, and I saw a car pull up there. So there's a car in front of this car that pulled up, and the car in front wouldn't turn. So the person behind him was getting super impatient, honking, bah, 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 bah. And then the dude gets out, and it's a white woman in the car. She's just being disrespectful, honking hardcore. The dude gets out, throws up his hands, scares the woman, right? But he's probably offended, like, yo, you're coming into my neighborhood.
That's a good point, man. Yeah.
So, and I'll be honest, at first when I saw gentrification take place, I was offended. Like, bro, don't come up in here. Like, this, we grew up here, right? Don't come in here judging us. Don't come in here assuming you know us. And then God had to change my heart in that, because I was getting angry. I was being judgmental. I don't know these people. I've never sat down with them and shared coffee and heard their story, just like they've never heard mine. So I had to think different and really see it as an opportunity to take advantage of diversity, because diversity is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's something that our current generation, Gen Z, like they love that. They're all about diversity,
all
right?
about that life.
So as far as community work and be engaged, it's the perfect opportunity to have diversity represented, where you don't only have Hispanics and African Americans in the room, but now you can bring more people around the table, hear each other's stories, and grow with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
That's good. Which brings you to my next question, because you're talking about AZ Reach character development.
Yeah.
So, like, what character development or character traits are you guys focusing on teaching students, teaching teenagers, and like why those characters?
Yeah, man. So when I was teaching for those 6 years, I would open up my class every day during lunch. Students come hang out, they're kicking it with us. And I was also coaching on the football team. One of our football players came in. Dude's huge. He's a lineman. He's buff as can be. You know, he's a senior.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend's in the room with him, and they start arguing. And it gets pretty heated. He gets up. He gets in her face. And I got to tell him to leave. Dom, you got to leave the room, man. So he takes off. I give him a few minutes to calm down. I go talk to him outside. I'm like, bro, what are you thinking? Like, why are you treating her this way? Men don't treat women this way. Men respect women. We got to love them. We got to care for them, take care of them. Like, you're being disrespectful, man. That's not what we do as men. And he looked at me in my eyes. He goes, man, I don't know what it means to be a man. He goes, my dad was never in my life. I never saw that example growing up. Like, this is all I know. He's trying to figure it out on his own, right? So the next day I asked my class, how many of you do not live at home with your biological fathers? And 70% of my class raised their hand.
Wow.
And I realized this is a problem. And I mean, we already kind of knew that. Like, if you grew up in the inner city, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, real rap, if you grew up anywhere. You know what I mean? I do work in the suburbs, and they got just as many dads missing over there. And they might not be... They might be present, but not emotionally present.
Always working.
They're always working, or they know that their parents' marriage is about to blow up. One of them's like cheating or an alcoholic or something, and so their parents may be home.
Yep.
But they ain't no family.
That's real, bro. That's real. Yeah, broken homes all day.
And I think that, like, you know, thinking about what you were saying with gentrification and things like that, like, I think that there are things that people struggle with that goes beyond color, that goes beyond race, right? It's like like the loneliness of being a teenager, of being a kid, and your parents not being there for whatever reason. Right. You know, maybe they got locked up, or maybe, like Jordan was saying, they're just all into their work, or they're an alcoholic or something like that. When you're a kid and you got to kind of raise yourself, that's like the law of the jungle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro.
And so it's like, I think that those are things that, through conversation, I think people start seeing, like, man, we have a lot more in common than we realize.
For sure.
Are you seeing some of that happen? Were you seeing that happen back then? Or?
Yeah. So when we meet, our first session in these groups that we meet with, we share stories.
Okay.
What's your story?
So it's story based, basically.
That first session, because we want them to know each other. We want relationships to be built amongst that group, and we see commonalities all day, man. Like 6 for 6.
Wow.
100% of them. They come from broken homes. 100% of them.
Wow.
On average, 90% of the students we're meeting with do not have a relationship with their father.
Man.
They don't.
So, like, clarify, what does that mean?
With their biological father. He either does not live at home, they don't talk, or if they do, it's once in a while. Once every couple months, he'll hit me up and check in on me.
Dang, bro.
So and sometimes a stepdad will come in the picture. But they don't just trust him right away.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
They ain't trying to, like, buddy up with them and get all tight with them. So most of the time, they're coming from, that's their story. And it's a ton more than that. But they share that. And they realize as they look around the room, like, dang, I ain't the only one living this life. Like, I ain't the only one struggling with this stuff. I didn't know.
Helps them be less judgmental, huh?
Yeah. This boy I pass every day down the hallway. Oh, now I know we got something in common, right? So anyways, when I realized we need to do something about this, like, how do we change broken homes? How do we change neighborhoods? How do we change communities? Well, let's get around these students and let's talk about specifically with the boys first. Right now, we're running an all-girls program starting next week, actually. It's the launch of our all-girls program. But with these boys, what can we teach them about manhood? Because the culture teaches in the inner city, if you want to be a man, you got to hook up with X amount of girls.
Right.
The more girls you can hook up with, the more of a man you are.
Right.
The more money you got, the more of a man you are. The more respect you got, right? Your stature, the stronger you are physically, you know, the deeper your voice can get, you know, the more you can punk people type of thing. Like, dang, that's a man. That's not a man. They've been lied to. We've been lied to, right? So we want to take this picture that the culture paints as manhood, dismantle that, and talk about what real manhood is. You say that you don't give respect till you get respect. All right, let's talk about authority. That's one of our topics, authority. What does authority look like? Why is authority important? Because one thing I realized was this generation coming in, Gen Z, man, there was a difference in their view on authority.
Yes.
Like, they could care less.
Big difference. They do.
Yeah, they don't.
Bro,
they don't
they're
care.
throwing chairs in the classroom.
Yeah.
They're cussing out teachers.
Yeah.
Right? They don't care if you're a security guard.
Yeah.
They hate cops.
Absolutely.
I mean, especially in the inner city, right? But we needed to show them, like, authority is important. Granted, authority is abused sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
We ain't going to take that away. And sometimes we'll get into that conversation. That's what Real Talk does really well. But authority is important, and it's created for a reason, right? Because it keeps order. So we ask a question like, all right, what do you guys think of authority? We hate it. We want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
All right, picture this. You wake up one morning, and you walk onto your high school campus, and there's no security guards present. What's the day look like? You go home, and they're telling us, you were in that class. It's crazy. It's chaotic.
Yeah,
you know,
people acting up. Acting all
people
crazy.
acting wild. All right, you go home. You got 5 grown men robbing your house, and it's only you.
No police.
And you call 911. No police. They ain't working today. What's that looking like? What do you think? And we're trying to change their perspective, right? We're not taking away from the fact that authority's been abused, but we're also challenging them. One day you're going to be in a position of authority. You're going to be a father. You're going to be a coach or a boss, because these guys are entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
They want to grind. They want to hustle. One day you're going to have that authority. How are you going to live it out?
Man.
And do you want people to follow you?
And this is one of the things we were talking about earlier. It's funny with gentrification, right?
Yeah,
you get like people who come from the suburbs and they're leaving that to go to cheaper homes that are in the inner city or whatever.
Yeah.
The same thing is kind of true. I wouldn't call it gentrification with technology, but the same thing that kids in the hood are seeing on that cell phone are the same things kids are seeing in the East Valley, right?
Yeah.
And what is the message being sent? Don't trust authority. Trust Google. Right? It's like we've been talking about this concept of the distribution of trust.
Redistribution of trust.
Yeah, explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so the idea is that before we had a pipeline system where I went to an expert and they told me what to do.
Yeah.
Right? And that I trusted that the expert's advice was actually valid. And we've seen an abuse of that in institutionalism, right? We've seen all different types of people in positions of power take advantage of people that are underlings, so to speak.
You
right?
see a cop beating a guy on
you see a
the cell
teacher,
phone.
hey,
Kids in
you
the
see
East Valley and
professors
here.
telling their students they got to sleep with them for better grade. You know, all those different types of things that happen, right?
Yeah.
And so now what we see is this transition where kids no longer believe something because the person in a position of authority told them, but they believe it because 10,000 people said it's true on social.
Yeah.
Right?
Dang.
And
Or
so
liked
because
it
a
or
bunch of
shared
people
it,
shared it, or
Right.
a bunch of people are saying this is true,
Yeah.
or a certain, I don't know, social platform that everybody follows said this is the way to think about this,
Right.
and a bunch of people agreed with it, then they agree with it.
Yeah, bro.
And so there's value in both systems, but there's also the possibility for being taken advantage of in both systems.
Wow.
And so we come from the pipeline system, right? And they come from the trust that's distributed, kind of like more social, communal validation of something space.
real.
And so
That's
when
real.
you come to them and say, hey, you should believe this because I said so, they're like, nah,
Right.
you can keep that.
Yeah, bro. Right.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Wow.
And we want to make sure we're coming with, like, we can relate to you. We may not share 100% of your story because every story is unique, but we grew up in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
We come from a broken home. We know what it's like for parents to get divorced. And okay, so y'all can cut me off when you want. All right.
No,
hit it.
One of the other topics we hit on is responsibility.
Mm.
And that is my favorite topic because typically when you talk to kids about responsibility, it's like, all right, you got to make sure you're doing your homework.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're doing your chores, right? Like, what are you responsible over right now? But we're trying to get in their mind, like, 10 years from now, when you become a father, maybe even tomorrow when you become a father, because he's,
real rap.
sleeping around right now. Like, the
truth.
temptation
It's true.
is going to be to walk out because fatherhood is difficult.
Yeah,
It's
true, man.
tough. I'm speaking, we're all dads, right? We can say
Yeah,
amen
bro.
to that all
Hey,
day.
Real rap.
These gray hairs are not here.
Bro, like, where are these gray hairs
I
coming
know,
from,
right?
man? Like, you got any yet?
Not yet,
Jordan?
I don't think.
Yeah.
Might have
They're
one or
coming,
two,
bro.
might
He's
one
got
or
some
two
on his
stragglers.
back.
Have one more kid. They're coming.
Not
But-
even gonna read into that too much.
Yeah, bro, but the temptation is to walk away because it's tough, dude. It's tough to
Yeah.
die to yourself. It's tough to, to raise
It's true,
a
man.
kid. But that doesn't take away from, that's not an excuse to walk away,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because and we tell these boys, that's what your dad did. We may not tell them as direct, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's your story. You had someone walk out on you. Don't be that guy that walks out on your kids.
Yeah, man, that's
One day
good.
you might be married. The temptation is going to be to divorce and
Yeah.
give up. Because that's what we do, right? In America.
Mhm.
What's the rate
Real
now?
rap.
Yeah, I don't
51?
know, it's like-
51%?
yeah, it's
Across
high.
every institution, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Church, not church.
Yeah.
Religious, not religious.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
If you're going to say, I do, if you're going to make a commitment, be about that.
That's right.
Follow through with that, no matter
That's
how
good, man.
difficult it gets. So we're trying to paint a picture long term, like in the future, and by doing so, we hope that we can establish whole homes again,
Mm.
whole families again that aren't broken, and by doing so, establish whole neighborhoods again and whole communities again. We don't expect these boys to live perfect lives because we ain't living perfect lives.
Yeah, for sure.
But we want to change their perspective on like, what does life look like as a man?
Mm.
And not like this macho,
Yeah.
real
Real
masculinity thing, but like, yo, you need to, like, responsibility is tough.
Yeah,
You just need to follow through with that. Like,
that's great, man.
viewing authority is tough. Or what does envy look like in your life?
Mm.
Or how do you define your self-worth?
Mm.
Where do you find your value? Is it in what you own?
Mm.
Because that ain't going to define you. Those things they're here today and gone tomorrow, right?
Mm.
So yeah, we're really trying to bring solid men and women along these people who will live as examples, and off campus,
That's good, bro.
they're hanging out with us. They're seeing what it looks like
Community.
in our community, how we engage with our families, what it looks like to grocery shop, like just do life. You know what I'm
Skills,
saying?
yeah.
Right.
So that's good, bro. There's a lot that's running around in my mind right now. But I think what I want to ask you now is, what advice would you give to influencers? So people who maybe are working in these spaces, what advice would you give them as they're looking to help Gen Zers build these character traits?
Yeah.
Like, what do they need to do in order to be successful at
Right.
even doing something like that?
Yeah, man. I think I want to start by saying it's important that we understand the weight that this generation is carrying. And really every generation is carried in this sense. I'm working with high school students.
Yeah.
So I'll speak there and only there.
Okay,
right? I tell high school students all the time, like, you guys have a lot on your plate. And adults don't give you credit for that enough.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Like, y'all come in and you got to go to 7 classes a day. You're coming from anywhere 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. all the way to like 2:30, 3 p.m. Right? And it's nothing but classes and a lunch break. And the food's horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, nowadays they're doing like Uber Eats and stuff. So
Yeah, it's
they
true.
be pulling up with McDonald's and all that, right?
Dang.
Food's still horrible.
It's still horrible, right? But I think we need to understand that they do have a lot on their plate.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to these classes and they're getting slammed with work
Mm-hmm.
from every class. They got assignments to turn in, they got homework, they got tests to study for. And you add the social aspect on top of that and the stress they're experiencing from like popularity, being judged, friendships that are broken, relationships that are broken. They're carrying this emotional baggage with them. And then some of them are committed to sports after school, or some of them got to go to work after school because they need to help provide for their family to pay the bills and put food on the table. And then you go home and our homes are broken. Like, we just live in a broken world. So you're experiencing, a lot of these kids are experiencing arguments at home. They're experiencing the lights being turned off. If their parents are having marital issues, they're hearing that stuff through the walls, right? Or some of them just don't trust them. They don't let them go out. They don't let them kind of like spread their wings a little bit. But they're carrying weight, man. These kids are walking every day. I mean, you're going to school 5 days a week. And when we tell them that, like, man, we don't give you enough credit. You see, like,
relief.
Like, someone gets me, right? So I think we need to understand, like, we need to just pause and not be so quick to critique. And I'm speaking to, like, parents, influencers, like, not be so quick to critique or compare. We did it this way. You're doing it this way. But we just need to understand they're already carrying a lot and they just need to be loved and cared for. Yeah. So that relational aspect is important, right? Not just, I mean, you could sit in a room of 30 kids and speak some hope into them and whatnot, but that relationship with one, that relational equity that you earn, that's what makes a difference, right? Like, and I know, like, I heard Chris Preby talking about it on the show, right? Like, it's relationships, man. At the end of the day, these kids need to know that they're cared for. They need to know there's an adult in their lives who genuinely loves them. Don't just say I love you, but you mean it. Because we throw that word love around loosely, right?
That's true.
I love tacos. I love my wife.
Right.
Yeah. Two very different things.
Xbox.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I would say, like, we just need to just pause and think through the weight that they're already carrying. When they come home, what does their day look like at home? Or if you're a teacher, when they come to school, what did they just come from? They probably didn't go to sleep till like 2 a.m. Because they're hearing arguments. Or they probably didn't eat the night before because they don't have enough food on their table. Like, are you understanding it from that perspective? Are you taking the time to listen, ask questions, hear them out? And then in time, you could share your opinion, your advice. Yeah.
So kind of earning the right to be heard.
Earning the right to be heard, for sure.
And I think once you do that, it changes the way you want to be heard, and it changes the way that you communicate too. Because I think a lot of times, like you said, we go into these things, let me set these kids straight. Let me teach them something.
Show them
back
how
in
we
my
did
day,
it.
boy.
You know
what I mean? And then you hear about the things they're going through, and you're like, yo, I wasn't even thinking about that when I was your age.
Yeah, bro.
And then one of the things you didn't mention, which I know that you're aware of, is, I mean, the technological social space aspect and the pressure that adds, the sense of constantly being connected, constantly being available, things always happening, the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Like, man, just adding that piece to everything that they have going on as well is even more pressure.
Right. Bro, I'll tell you what, man. I was impressed by a Gen Zer the other day. This girl named Haley walked into Caesar's Closet. So we run a closet on the Cesar Chavez campus, giving away clothes and shoes to students for free, so they could shop around. We're building community. People are earning community service hours, whatnot. This girl walks in. You weren't there that day, right? It was the last Thursday of Man Up. Chris was there though, and Octavius was there. This girl walks in and she goes, "Oh, I just recorded a podcast." She's like a sophomore or a junior. I go, "What's your podcast about?" She goes, "We're talking about race, talking about racism." I was like, "Oh." She goes, "Yeah, I'm pretty passionate about a lot of subjects." I go, "What else are you passionate about?" She goes, "Consumerism." I go, wait, what? She goes, "Yeah, consumerism, the problem of consumerism." This is a high school student sharing this stuff. I go, "What else are you passionate about?" She goes, "Social media and how addicting it is. Our cell phones and how addicting they are. My friends are lost to that stuff." She goes, I'm trying to change that in my life. It's just healthier for me." I've never in my life heard a high school student talking about these subjects that are detrimental. You don't hear adults talking about some of this stuff. Like, I can't have conversations with regular adults about these things. You talk about being woke. This girl was woke, man. Like, and I go, what? Help me understand why are you passionate about this stuff? She goes, it's my dad. My dad and I talk about a lot of things. And she goes, we have a rule of thumb. Question everything. She goes, when you question everything, you learn a lot more. Like, dang. This is a sophomore in high school is teaching me stuff about
and
things,
she's starting her own podcast.
She's starting her own podcast, doing her thing. Yeah, it's dope, man. It just like made me like, wow, like this generation is gifted.
They're different.
Yeah, they're different, man. Yeah.
That's good.
Interesting.
Which kind of brings me to my last question. Not my last question, but the last major question I have. You kind of hit on this. What is the good, the beauty that you're seeing in these same teenagers that you're developing character in? Because I think a lot of times, right, troubled kids, difficult home lives, and we miss out on the diamonds in the rough, if you will. So if you could share with us some of the things that you're seeing, and my hope is that people who are listening to this podcast will see names and faces as they hear you talk about the things that you're seeing in difficult spaces in our city.
Yeah, man. I feel like that's a difficult question to answer. We've seen fruit. We've seen life change. But I want to see it 10 years from now.
Right? You're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I want to see how they're living when they're grown. But currently, man, like I'll share this story about Nathaniel. And this is wild, bro. Like, you can't make sense of this stuff right here. Okay. So, when I was a senior in high school, I played football. One of my teammates his name was Andrew.
Okay.
He's our running back. Dude's solid. He's built. He looked more like a
defensive
fullback.
tackle.
He looked more like a fullback than a running back. A running back. But he was caught up in the gang life. And my senior year in high school, he was murdered. Yeah, he was murdered, left for dead, 35th Avenue in Buckeye.
Dang.
Killed him in the car, shot him, dumped his body on the side of the road, left for dead. And his 5-year-old brother at the time had to experience that. You know, his older brother is gone. You know, the brother that he would walk by his room every day. He ain't there no more. Talk to him. That's his role model. He's gone, right? 10 years later, we're working with the new group of students at Chavez. They give us some of their worst behaved freshman boys on campus, right? This boy Nathaniel, he's one of the boys out of like the 10 they gave us. He tags me on something on Facebook. So I go to his profile, and his cover photo is a picture of Andrew.
Dang.
And it says, "Rest in peace, bro."
And that's 10 years later.
10 years later, man. 10 years later. And he's in Man Up. And I'm tripping. I got tears in my eyes. I'm crying. Like, how in the world did this just happen? And I'm only thinking about the dad. Their dad decided to keep him in the neighborhood, despite Andrew being murdered. Keep him in the neighborhood. Not only that, send him to the same high school that his brother went to. Because there's like, when you grow up in the inner city, man, there's like a loyalty to that thing. Like, this is my home. I ain't leaving, type of thing, right? And then for him to be placed into our program, and then for the relationship, just the connection between him and I, and the connection to Andrew was just pretty mind-blowing, man. I just thought, like, it's kids like this that are probably on their way to destruction. And there's something greater. There's a love that God has for this kid that is putting him in a program that's going to help set him straight, hopefully set him straight, right? And yeah, bro, so when you ask a question like that, like, I think of stories, and I'm probably going to walk away from here like thinking like, oh, probably should have shared this story. Probably should have shared how this student has turned around his character. I would say the biggest thing that Chavez admin, Cesar Chavez High School admin has told us is they are seeing a change in attendance.
Wow.
They're seeing a change in behavioral tendencies. So where these students were going to ISS often, they were getting referrals often. That's not happening as much. Those are decreasing, right? And I think that's why they love the program so much, because they're seeing it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I don't know if that answers your question at all.
No, it does, and I think that's important because there's something that happens when you say, I'm going to do the same thing for 50 years. When you say, I'm going to turn up at the same high school at the same time, Monday through Friday, for the next 50 years, there's things that you're able to do that nobody else is able to do. There's a credibility, there's an authority, there's an understanding, there's a wisdom that you have that nobody else has because you've been in it for a minute and you've seen everything that can possibly happen. And like you have a respect from that community because you've just remained.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what, like, it's cool to hear the fact that you grew up there, you went to school there, you walked to there, and now you started a program there. And so there's just like, there's something that you have that a lot of people don't have. And I think the important thing for influencers to hear is like, yo, if you really want to change some people's lives, the reality is you can't change everybody's life.
Right.
And you've got to park yourself somewhere, and you've got to park yourself there for the long haul. You've got to say, I'm willing to be here for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Right.
And if you're willing to say that, then I think you'll start to see the things that you really want to see happen.
Yeah.
And then you have to have the kind of perspective that you have. Like, yo, I'm not trying to get this dude to have his behavior change right now. I'm trying to see in 10 years' time that he was successful and did something with his life because something happened in his heart. He didn't just stop doing bad things in school.
Yeah.
But something changed on the inside of him fundamentally. His perspective shifted, his mind shifted, and how he sees the world differently. And now he's fundamentally a different person, and now he's going to live a different life.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what we got to understand. We got to play the long game with these kids.
We got to be rooted.
Exactly.
Right? We got to root ourselves in that community.
Yep.
And also,
that's so good, man.
I just want to share one more thing, man. The power of collaboration. So when you say you can't change everyone's life, yep, you're right. You definitely cannot change everyone's life. One organization, one person, one director, good luck. That ain't going to happen, right? There's just too many needs out there to meet. But there's power in collaborating. So here's what we're seeing at Chavez, for example. Real talk is present at Chavez. So when we get our man up boys in the room, we're saying, hey, there's another organization. There's a man named Jordan. There's a man named Chris who leads Real Talk here. Y'all should go through. Y'all should go connect with them. And we're hearing Chris saying, who leads Real Talk at Chavez, hey, they're coming. So it's not only like, I hope they go, but they're going.
Yep.
Or when we say like, hey, Octavius is on this campus, he runs something called FCA. Y'all should go check it out. They're going, right? And there's power in collaborating. So now these students aren't just hearing it from one adult role model.
Yeah.
They're hearing it from multiple. Yeah. And if you're collaborating with these other organizations, because look, if you're thinking like it's all about me, I'm gonna do it, good luck. Like, you're gonna drown.
Absolutely.
Like when you can work with people, that's what we learned in DeVos, right? When you can work.
Shout out to DeVos and Leadership
DVULI.
Hey.
When you can collaborate, they have a different name for it.
Interdependence.
Interdependence, yeah. Relying on one another. Then you make a way bigger splash, way bigger impact, because your organization can provide something that organization cannot, but they're also providing something that you cannot. They're gifted in an area where you aren't. So, man, network, like really, like cheer for other organizations, cheer for other people who are doing that work.
That's good.
Yeah, and if you can help out, help them out, or if you can just applaud them or share their stuff or inform other people about them, do it, because more of an impact is being made. And I think that tells all. If you're only about yourself, you ain't gonna share no one else's stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're truly about impact and wanting to see lives change, then you'll be about that all day, because it ain't about your program at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's a greater work taking place, right?
Yes,
That's
we
good,
can.
Bro. That's good, bro. Yeah, I think about that a lot. Like, if you're concerned about the cause and not your organization, then you're down to share. You're down
for sure
to promote other people's stuff. You're
For
down
sure.
to cheer other people on.
Yep.
You're down to volunteer for other organizations. You're
Yep.
down to wear other organizations' T-shirts and hats and turn up to their things and promote their things and maybe even give money to their stuff.
Right, bro.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because like you're all trying to invest in this ecosystem you're creating.
Same goal.
To improve and to transform the lives of young people.
That's it.
And so as we wrap this thing up, man, we'll wrap it up like we always do with a little bit of Christian perspective. And as I think about this, man, I just think about this idea that, man, seeing people's lives change, and specifically seeing people's lives change through the gospel, isn't always this quick flash in the pan process, right? But it's walking with people, loving them, caring for them, meeting their needs, speaking into their life, being there for them. Makes me think about a friend of ours right now is going through a really difficult time in his life, really dark space that he's in. Just being present, just being there with him in that hole that he's in. I don't even really have any answers for him, but I'm there. You know what I'm saying? And I love him and I care about him. And so just serving that role in people's lives, speaking truth, encouraging, sharing with them the gospel, obviously. But just loving on them, man. And I think about the life of Christ, and that's what he did, bro. He was present.
He sure was, bro.
Present.
He sure
people's
was.
Lives.
Yeah,
man.
I was reading in Mark 4 the other day. Jesus comes and there's this blind man, and there's a bunch of people around Jesus. There's a crowd around him. Blind dude comes up to him. Can you heal me? Jesus grabs him by the hand and walks him out of the village. And when he walks him out of the village, then he heals him. But he grabbed him by the hand, which is like, dang, this dude is relational. He's intentional. He's loving, right? And he walks him away from the crowd because he ain't about applause. He ain't about showing off, boasting. And I was wondering, what was their conversation like from the village to out of the village? What they talk about? I'm sure it was good. I'm sure Jesus asked questions, taught him some things. But I just think about in my life, like, what does that look like practically to slow down, to be intentional on loving people individually, and to not be so quick to want to move on to the next thing, but being Christ-like in the sense of this person in front of me is made in the image of God. Christ has changed my life. I want to reflect God's image and love. The Bible says God is love, right? And if we can share that love with people, the love of God, man, we're glorifying the Lord in that. But yeah, I agree, bro. It's about being intentional. It's about loving at the foundation of it all. Because, bro, that guy Manuel Nunez, that's what he was doing to me. Man, you know, when Christ changed my life at age 19, when God changed my heart and my desires, I needed men to come around me to show me what life looks like now. Because I only knew one way, right? I only knew getting high and partying and, you know, trying to become famous type of thing. And then God changes my life, radically transformed my life at age 19. And now it's like, oh, now what do I do? And this dude, Manuel Nunez, he just loved me. He didn't sit with me and walk me through a curriculum. He just brought me around his family, took me to his son's football games. Spent time with me. Let me ask him questions. Let me see it. He loved me, man. He's still loving my family to this day. Yeah, so I agree, bro, 100%.
That's good, man.
Yeah, man. I was just thinking about what you said, you know, in the passage you just read or, you know, explained to us in Mark. I was thinking about, you said, what were the conversations like? You know, I bet Jesus was probably like, hey, watch your step. You know, like, hey, don't fall there. You know what I mean?
Dang. That's good, bro.
And so, right, because he's blind, and I think a lot of times, you get what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of times with influencers, we're always trying to get them to make the big decision. And sometimes it's like, hey, just watch out for that cactus right there. You know, watch out for that little thing. And then you build up that trust over time, those little steps. And then it's like, you may not know who was holding your hand, but, yo, I'm Jesus. You know, like maybe he didn't even know it was Jesus. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think that's the point sometimes with people with religion or with things of faith. Like, you don't know what someone's been going through in their life to even be able to hear the gospel. Like maybe they're angry at God because their dad died or their brother died or something like that. But, you know, coming to people where they are in that situation, walking them through to a place where you can get them away from the noise and really talk. Like
Yeah.
that's just what I was
Get to
thinking
the
of.
heart of the matter.
Yeah,
The
you know what I
ministry,
mean?
they call it the ministry of presence, right? And so life is so complicated and so difficult, and there are so many things that happen that we just don't understand.
Yeah.
In many cases, the best thing I can offer a person is myself. I don't have all the answers. I don't know it all. I don't understand it all. But I can be here with you.
Right.
I can cry with
Right.
you. I can laugh with you.
Right.
I can rejoice with you. I can
Right.
mourn with you. I can give you me. It's the best thing I got. And I think we get caught up in results and seeing people's lives transformed. And
Or
seeing
saying the right
behaviors
thing.
change, saying the right
numbers.
thing. Yeah. And it's like, no, man, the best thing I have to offer is myself.
Right.
That's good, man.
And it's really God.
Yep.
Because I'm trying to abide in God.
Yep. No doubt.
And Him love through me.
Yep. For
I'm
sure.
trying to
bro.
offer Jesus by offering
110%.
myself. Yeah.
That's good,
That's
bro.
good, man.
There it is, bro.
So-
That's a great perspective, man.
Bro.
Yeah, you know
That was
what
a
I mean?
mic drop for you right there.
Man, hey, I mean, you shared it. I was just thinking, just sharing my thoughts on what that was. And it really made me think about kids in school, right? They
Yeah.
act one way in school, in the crowd,
Right.
like the story you told. But when you pull them out of that crowd, you
game
get what
changer,
I'm
man.
saying?
That's it, bro.
And I mean, if Jesus was humble enough to do that, like, why do we think it always has to be at a big rally where a kid makes a response?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you get what I mean?
Right.
Like, sometimes I think when it comes to dealing with kids, we want like that, scatter shot
Yeah.
rather than like, the kill shot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think you get that when you pull, man, it just was
Yeah, that's
really
it,
cool.
bro. We're at Bostrom High School,
Mm-hmm.
and Bostrom is like when kids get kicked out, they go to Bostrom. That's like their last stop.
Yeah.
So you got a bunch of gang members there, a bunch of people who've been given up on in life. So our two instructors leading group there, they got 10 boys. There's this one boy, he doesn't say a word during group. And you could probably think he's checking out. He don't care. He don't want to be here. But they tell me when the other 9 leave the room, he stays. And he starts talking to them. He starts asking questions.
Man.
So yeah, man, to your point, like
Yeah,
in
you
a
never
crowd,
know.
there's something about being intentional,
Yeah.
getting alone and talking through some of that stuff. Yeah.
That's
And
good,
that's good,
man.
bro.
Mhm.
Okay. So AZ Reach, as we kind of wrap things up a little bit, where are you guys at?
Yep.
What are some exciting things that you're moving into? I know you mentioned the girls program.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned to me the other day that you just got the van, which is
Yeah,
dope.
baby.
Hey.
And so tell us a little bit about what's happening, some exciting things, and then also tell us where we can find you.
That's what's up. So we're in 2 high schools right now. We're talking to 3 other high schools who are interested, which they've called us. We're not trying to grow. We're not trying to blow this thing up.
Yeah.
We just want to be faithful where we're at. But we needed a van, right? And we got one. We needed a van to hang out with kids off campus, take them to the games, movies, whatever.
That's dope.
We got one. That's great. Now we're looking at a home. We want a house that's close to the school where students can walk after school. It's a safe place for them to be.
Mhm.
They can eat. They can sleep. They can nap, right? They can study. And it's a safe community home where they don't have to go home alone, or they don't got to go to the park and get high. They don't got to do those things.
Mhm.
They don't got to go run with the wrong crowd. It's just a safe place in the community. We're a lighthouse in the community. So, and a lot of our programs will be ran out of there.
That's dope.
A lot of what we're doing is ran out of that home. So that's our next hope. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. So
And all the
AZ
handles are the
Reach.
same? Okay.
Yeah, AZ Reach, at AZ Reach. We're working on our girls program. We've been developing that curriculum. We start that March 19th
Dope.
at Chavez High School.
Nice.
That's our pilot program, and we'll branch that out eventually to some other schools. But yeah, and then we got our closet. We're running on campus, but the engine of our program is our curriculum that we're teaching on these.
And so, if
campuses.
anyone wants to donate time or clothes,
Yeah, hit us
or
up. Hit us up on-
volunteer and just
yep.
DM you guys on social.
DM us, hit us up.
Shmoney.
Yep. Yeah, we got a PayPal account set up right now.
Hey.
But yeah, hit us up if you want to volunteer, if you want to ask more questions. I'd love to meet with you. Buy you some coffee, sit with you, and yeah, just see where it goes from there.
Juan, thank you for your time, bro. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Love you
Yeah,
guys.
man.
All right, episode 21 in the books. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Some valuable Flames content, I think.
Yes, sir.
We love you guys. Like we say, it's the beginning of the conversation, not the end. And so hopefully this will spur you on to think about some things and process through some things. If you need or want to dialogue with us in that, comment, hit us up. You know how to get in contact with us. You'll find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, RLTKPHX. We love you guys. Talk to you soon. Peace.